everybody, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to measure a shower opening with a laser level for a shower door. So let me go ahead and I'll get started on this. First thing I do is I do a drawing of the opening and how I want to lay this out. And then what I do is I'll start by measuring the perimeter exactly, get all my exact measurements around the perimeter. I start with the curb here. And write that measurement. So when it comes to measuring the bench, what I'll be doing in this case, of course I'll get the height of the bench here, but when I move on to measure the bench, this is where I'm going to determine my reveal of how, the reveal meaning that how far the shower door will sit inside the, the curb and the bench. And to get a consistent reveal, I'll go ahead and I'll measure the curb here. And then based on my measurements there, I'll just kind of, there's no anything set in stone, but what I like to do is kind of stick with grout lines sometimes. So on this one, I'm going to set it up so that I'm going to measure off of the grout line. I'll put a mark there. I'll determine how far in that mark is on that part of the bench, and then on the back side of the bench I'll put that same measurement over there, and then the same measurement on this side. What this does, it gives me a consistent reveal around the bench perimeter, so it looks really good on the outside of the shower. I'll go ahead and I'll measure how wide that panel is going to be that's going to sit on top of the bench. And then I'll go all the way over and measure. And let me get my tape there to work. I'll measure over and see how far that is. That will be my top dimension for the shower enclosure, roughly speaking. If you'll notice there, I wrote down that number for the top. So now that I have all my all the perimeter measurements, I'll move on to step 2, which will be determining my out conditions for level. Horizontal surfaces are going to be considered level. Vertical surfaces are considered to be plumb. So I go ahead and I got to try to find a good spot to set my level. I'll go ahead and I just, there's a little shelf over here. I just put that on. You don't need a tripod or anything to do this. Usually there's something in the bathroom to set it on. Anyway, there's my first measurement. There's my second measurement. And that determines that the bench actually slopes down 1/8 of an inch from the right to the left side. Next measurement, I'll determine my slope of the bench. Remember, there needs to be a slope to the towards the drain. In this case, it's 1/4 of an inch. I wrote that down. Then I'll go ahead and get my measurement from left or from right to left here on the curb. And in this case, that measurement is 1/4 of an inch. So remember, when you're measuring your surfaces, like your curb and your bench, they need to slope to the inside of the shower. And then being that they are sloping to the inside of the shower, you need to make the measurement at the same spot relative to the reveal of the bench so that you don't get a measurement that's not true. If you measured the outside of the bench on one side, the inside of the bench on the other, and it does slope to the inside of the shower, it can give you a false measurement from left to right or right to left. Now what I'm doing is I'm checking the wall for plumbness. I go ahead and I write my measurement down there, determining that this wall actually is out 3/8 of an inch from the bottom to the top, so it's bigger at the top than it is at the bottom. I'll go ahead when I do measure that or make my drawings for my glass. I'll actually make the glass 3/8 of an inch bigger at the top than at the bottom to compensate for that wall. And here I'm going to go ahead and measure my wall here, and this wall actually ends up being plumb, so I indicate a wall that's plumb with a P. So if there's no out condition, I'll put the P there. showing that it's plumb. In this case, it's pretty good. I mean, the wall is plumb, so you see the P there on that wall. So just so you know, when you are doing a measurement, it's usually best to have the room to yourself. When you have people that come into the room and ask you questions, I've done it a million times. I forget to write down some information. I drive away. I'm at my shop, and then I look at my drawing to make my calculations, and guess what? I forgot a measurement, or I forgot an out condition, and then you got to drive all the way back over there. So anyway, that's just one step to think of. And then I'll go over this. Okay, so let me go over my drawing a little bit here for you. As you remember, if you remember, I went from here to here for my measurement of 66.5. But in fact, this wall leans 3/8 of an inch this way. So this top measurement is actually 66 7/8. 66.5 plus 3/8 is 66 7/8. But in any case, if you're going to send this drawing into your fabricator to make the glass, you want to go ahead and note that. But if you're by yourself measuring this, you could take your laser level and you could actually shoot the beam across this opening here. But holding a tape up in the air for 66 7/8 of an inch and a measure there, that tape is just so flimsy, it's just going to flop all over the place, and it's going to be impossible to get that top measurement that way, unless you do have somebody to help you out to hold the tape over here against the wall. And of course, if you have your laser running down the plane of your reveal for your bench, you can actually get that measurement that way. But in any case, I just find it easier because I'm typically measuring by myself to get the measurement from here to here. And if the panel is out, I will add that outage to that measurement. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out to you. All right, so moving on here. This is a separate opening in the same house. Of course, that's why the tile looks the same. But this is going to be a door and a panel. I'm going to go ahead and draw that up. But in the meantime, I want to explain something to you. There's a point that I'm going to make at the end of the video that can save you making a mistake in your measurements. You want to stick around and see what I'm talking about there. It's one of those mistakes I've made in the past. So anyway, stick around to the end. But anyway, this is my measurement, and this is my drawing or my plan on what I'm going to do. The contractor's already told me he wanted an 80-inch overall height and a 30-inch door. So I noted that on the drawing. And again, what I do is I start out by measuring the perimeter or the width of the curb there. Get that measurement. Make sure I always write down my measurements after I do them so I don't screw them up. I'll go ahead and measure that curb height, or the bench height from the curb. Write that down. Always make sure you're writing down your measurements after you take them. Don't do a bunch of measurements and then write them all down and think you're going to remember them. Anyway, I always find there's always a spot in the bathroom I find to put my laser level, so I don't need a tripod. Anyway, so I'll measure the overall height of the curb. I want to make sure I'm measuring at the same spot on the reveal of the curb for my measurements, because if being that the curb is going to be sloped, if I'm measuring to the outside and then the inside, I'm going to actually be adding that slope into my measurement from left to right. So anyway, that's just a point. Again, here I am getting the measurement for the bench. Front to back, make sure it's sloping to the shower drain. Go ahead and I'll write that out condition there. Here I'm checking the width of the bench. So I go ahead and measure that lip there. Take the lip and deduct it from the overall width of the bench. I'll go ahead and make that note there. Again, I just double check that. It's always a good idea just to make sure you're right. But so anyway, I got those measurements. Now I'm going to go to my plumb measurements, my vertical measurements. The point I'm going to make here is that when you are setting your laser level up on the wall, you want to make sure that that laser level, the plane of the laser level, is parallel to that wall so that you are not at an angle. So when you do your measurements, you're not making a mistake of actually measuring the angle of your laser plane and not the wall. So I'll try to explain that at the end again. But anyway, here I go. Got the measurement there. This is a pretty straightforward measure here. Actually, everything ended up being plumb. Made me happy. So anyway, I'll write that down. And we are pretty much done with this. I'll go over here the measurement with you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. It's getting a little too long for me, being that I'm doing it for free anyway. There are two things I want to show that are mistakes I've made, and it's pretty much when you're using a laser level that you make these mistakes. That's why I always, when I'm training somebody to do measure a shower door or a shower opening, I will have them use a level, the old school way, like a stick level, to measure the opening as well, because you don't make this mistake when you use a regular stick level. It's only when you're using a laser level. Anyway, laser. So anyway, I'm going to go over those two tips with you and end it right there. So again, please like and subscribe, and helps out the channel a lot. And one day, hopefully, I'll get enough subscribers where I can actually make some money from YouTube. So anyway, enjoy these two tips. Take it easy. All right, so this is a mistake I've made in the past, and I just kind of want to go over it with you so you don't make the same mistake I made. So this is a view of the shower looking down onto the shower. This is the curb. This is the outside of the shower. This is the inside of the shower. Okay, so when you set your laser level up, you want to make sure that your laser level is in plane with this wall so that the laser is parallel. Same distance here as here, away from the wall. Reason being is that when you do your measurement from the curb to the top of the shower wall, if your laser level is at an angle like this, and you happen to measure right here when you measure the curb, and then you measure over here when you measure the top, which is easy to do, you will get a different measurement here than you do here. So what this will tell you is that the bottom is bigger than the top. So if that were actually the case with the wall, and your laser, this is your laser level, and then when you do take your measurements, what you're actually measuring is a bigger measurement here than here. But you're not getting the out condition of the wall. What you're getting is the position on the laser of from inside to outside. So you want to that's why you want to make sure your laser is parallel to the wall. Same with the curb, and I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. All right, so the second mistake you can make is if when you're measuring your curb or your the width of your shower to check to see if it's plumb from left to right, you want to make sure that you measure on the same spot on the curb from the left side to the right side or the right side to the left side. You don't want to measure the outside on the left side, for example, and then the inside on the left or right side. So you can see what's going to happen here. If you measure the outside on one side and the inside on the other, you're actually going to show your curb from left to right as not being level, but in fact, you're just making the mistake of measuring at two different points. Therefore, you actually are including the slope of the curb into your left or right measurement. So make sure if you're going to measure your left side at the outside lip of the shower, you measure your right side to the outside lip of the shower as well. So anyway, that's just another mistake I've made. So if you have any questions or anything about what's going on here, go ahead and leave them in the comments and tell me what you think. And remember to like and subscribe. That actually helps me out a bit. All right, so here what I'm doing, I'm setting my laser level up to check for plumb. Plumb is vertical surfaces are called plumb. Horizontals are called level. So just so you know that. Keep the language consistent here, but what I'll do is the same as I did with the curb, but I'll do it on the vertical surface. So I'll check the bottom dimension here. I'll check the top dimension, which is hard to do because it's really hard to film this with a camera on my phone. So in any case, I check the top, I get my condition, I go ahead and I'll double check it with my level. So and then what I do is I set the level up so that the bubbles are in the middle of the level there. So you see that bubbles in there. That level is plumb. So I can look down that level and see how the wall is out. So the actual wall kicks out or kicks out at the top, or same kicks in at the bottom. You see how that is a bigger gap at the bottom than it is at the top. So I confirmed that my laser level that I measured when I measured that is consistent with my 6 foot level. So yeah, let me go ahead. So